Hey there, in this video I'm talking about the Strategic Cybersecurity Report for March 2023. So I released this in April. Let's go back to... I released this in April and let's kick in. Looking at the report itself here, I'm going to leave the link in the description so you can access all the sources of everything I'm talking about here in there. Okay, so this was a packed month, right? So a lot of news, a lot of threat reports being released, and I made sure to include bits of all of them in this report, which I found very interesting. So starting off with some major people-related information, major Australian financial company Latitude, called Latitude, was hacked. More than 300,000 customers were impacted. And as you can see reported here by news.com.au, this company was victim of an attack, and details of 300,000 customers were breached, with 100,000 more of those expected to have had their driver's license compromised. So this is following a number of other breaches in Australia that have greatly impacted a very large amount of people that have had to potentially reissue their driver's license documents already. So this poses even more issues to potential people who were caught in between similar and overlapping hacks recently. So a real problem for people in there, naturally. Now, from a technology perspective, Latitude and the hack itself, so let me just close this here. Latitude said it noticed unusual activity on its system in the last couple of days of this report, and when they realized, they took immediate action to minimize the damage, but it was too late. What I found interesting as well is that apparently the hack was from a third-party vendor. So as you can see here, as reported by news.com.au, they said the hack originated from a major vendor that Latitude uses. The vendor was not named. So therefore, it's a supply chain kind of attack if you think about it. The importance of trusting and having businesses with vendors who are properly taking care of your operations, as evidenced here by this unfortunate hack. Now, so please read through this, and potentially more news have risen since this initial report was released on this. And if you know any other news, make sure to comment, share other news, and even more updates to this. Next, looking at Palo Alto, which released a cloud security survey of theirs for the State of Cloud Native Security 2023. So it's a report from them, from a survey that they performed with enterprises. Now, you can go ahead and download the report. You just got to go through the marketing checklist for information that you have to provide. I myself am focusing here on the highlights, which they share in this piece of page here. So for this report, they surveyed 2,500 security and DevOps experts on cloud and cloud-native security ecosystem, and they asked them what challenges they're facing in cloud-native security and what strategies and solutions are helping you achieve your desired outcomes. And so out of this survey, throughout 5 different industries, including retail and travel, energy, utilities, financial services, healthcare, technology, and media, in companies residing in 7 countries, they got feel interesting numbers. So just looking at highlights here, 77% of respondents deploy new or updated code to production weekly. So the DevOps cycle there is really up to speed and really working there. 38% of organizations commit new code daily, right? And in the past 12 months, new deployment frequency has increased 68%. So the DevSecOps process of this organization must be enhanced greatly to keep up with all the increase of the DevOps operation in these organizations, right, as you can guess. Now, what's also relevant is 68% of organizations are unable to detect a security threat in less than an hour. So when you're pushing new code, and if you have a security model that doesn't allow you to find security threats in few hours, you're probably in a very high risk in your environment. Now, looking back to previous reports, you would have seen that other vendors' reports are saying that even ransomware attacks are taking less than 4 days to be deployed. So mean time to detect is really important here, right? Mean time to respond as well. Now, next, what the report found out was 77% of organizations struggle to identify what security tools are needed to achieve their objectives. So therefore, having people who are able to articulate and properly address their use cases and their challenges is key, right? So being able to, as a security professional, to translate the business needs from the security development lifecycle, or the development lifecycle to security is really important. And 76% of organizations say the number of point of tools they use cause blind spots. So therefore, being able to address these blind spots is something top of mind for these companies as well. Now, what I'd like to leave you with is again, link to this report. Next, looking at a CrowdStrike. Next, I'm looking at CrowdStrike 2023 Global Threat Report. So this here's also another one that you can download freely. You just have to give in your personal information there. Now, what is fascinating about these threat reports from vendors is they provide an insight into how attackers and adversaries are actually changing their tactics. So looking at the highlights here from this report, they are tracking new adversaries from an APT, Advanced Persistent Threat perspective, 33 of them. They're tracking more than 200 adversaries themselves, which is great from a cybersecurity perspective. Now, almost double increase in cloud exploitation seen by CrowdStrike. Now, what's key here as well that I want to highlight is the increase in access broker ads on the dark web. So other threat reports from Microsoft, even other vendors will talk about how identity is one of the main vectors for infection and for breach. So just seeing these stats here just corroborates with that data, right? So access broker ads in dark web selling exploited access credentials to environments just increasing. That's concerning. Now, 84 minutes average e-crime, that's a term they use for breakout time. Now, this year is also very important. 71% of attacks were malware-free, right? So having an EDR, an endpoint detection response capabilities with next generation quote here, next generation or modern technologies that are able to look for tactics, techniques, and procedures of every processes in your machines, and even inspecting in memory and real-time memory usage is key to avoid being victim of one of these attacks, right? So again, e-crime breakout times less than 2 minutes, as you see, and a lot of other good stuff in here, including a look at major APTs and nation-state threat actors here, as you can see on screen. So again, I'll leave you a link to this report in there. In the next section, I'm talking about processes. So what news there were that impact processes. Kicking off with a CISO lens. So CISO lens is an organization that looks at CISO leaders in the Australian and New Zealand part of the world, but they essentially survey these leaders for a number of different metrics that's on their mindset, right? So this was published late February, but what's really important here is the key takeaways, which again, a very thorough report, which I'll leave you to read on this. But what I wanted to highlight from this report is the findings here describe increased budget in all industries for cybersecurity, which is a good thing. And by all means, the demographics of responding organizations is not just New Zealand and Australia, but are majorly across this region, but there are also global organizations responding to this report and helping out with this report. The CISOs that they look at are from a number of different industries. Now, just looking at the budget again, cybersecurity budget increased for 2022. Good thing. If I were to look at some of organization changes that are being seen in cybersecurity landscape, team size and percentage of women is also being tracked, which is great from that perspective, from diversity and inclusion perspective. Now, this here is the slide that I find most interesting. The top 3 priorities for these leaders for the coming year. So they're comparing themselves against their last benchmark for 2022, and they're ranking those priorities from 5th to 1st, right? So looking at the latest benchmark for what's top of mind for cybersecurity leaders, ranking number 1 is identity and access management. Again, corroborating with what just saw in the Crowdstrike cybersecurity report. Identity is on the rise from a cybercrime perspective. Access brokers, ads in the dark web, also other vendors talking about the importance of protecting your identity, and CISOs understand that as well. Next, on their top of mind, second place would be maturing existing capability. So ensuring that they're making the most of what they currently have. Third is vulnerability management. Again, the robust vulnerability management program is key to ensure that you are reducing risk in your environment, right? So that's what it's being seen here from their perspective. And next, fourth would be uplifting capability, and fifth place would be cloud. It's interesting to see that there's no mention here of staff or productivity, but if I were to read through these more thoroughly, it is very likely that we're going to see this reported by the CISOs as well. I will leave you with a link to this report for your perusal later on. Next is